Welcome back to the best of Rslash. Today we're taking a look at r/LetsNotMeet, where OP goes on a date that doesn't technically end. So to start, I'm a transgender woman. I'm single, and I make my status as trans very clear in all my dating profiles, except Plenty of Fish, because they consider that to be talking about sex, and they will straight up ban you. So I state instead that I'm a huge proponent of trans rights. So this guy messages me. He lives about an hour away, kinda cute, in a mildly creepy way, like something seems a little off about him, but people can't help how they look, so I give him another chance, just like I would want. I discover he's a smoker, but he says he's trying hard to quit and only does when he's really stressed or upset. We have a nice conversation, and finally, he asks for my number, and without thinking about it, I give him the number, but tell him I'm getting ready for my evening classes, so I'll be slow to respond. A few minutes go by and I get, "Hi, it's username," from POF. Now usually I send a standard quick message. "Hi, it's Allie. So, just to be clear, since my profile might be a little vague, I'm a transgender woman. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, so if you're not interested, I completely understand." About 20% of the time, the guy isn't interested and gets rude and needs to be blocked, and the other 80% is split between immediate inappropriate questions and dick pics, casual acceptance, or dead silence. But like I said, I was getting ready to go to class, so I hadn't sent the message yet. A few minutes go by, and I'm about to text him my standard when I get another text. "Who the fuck is," same username, "why is he paying your cell phone bill? Where did you even get that name? Answer the question. Who is he?" I'm honestly stunned at this point, and I realize he must have paid one of those shady websites that offers personal information for a fee. "Well, if you must know, I'm a transgender. That used to be my name. I was about to tell you when you pulled that stunt. Please do us a favor and lose my number. That's incredibly invasive, and I don't want to talk to you anymore." "Do you still live at," says my address name, "in hometown. I'm coming to see you so we can talk about this in person." I said, lying, "No, I moved a few months ago, and I'm getting ready to head out like I said. You need to leave me alone. Don't contact me again. Since you put something to hide, I'm going to run a full background check on you. You lied to me, and I don't appreciate that." I'm sending screenshots of this conversation, your POF profile, and your photos to my two best friends who work in law enforcement in your town and my ex-boyfriend who I'm still on good terms with, who works for the local sheriff's office. Don't text me again. I didn't hear anything else from him for a few weeks. I made sure my doors and windows were locked, and the aforementioned friends and ex would check up on me from time to time. Eventually, it just became one of those weird things that makes you laugh uneasily. And then, one day, I thought I saw him at the local grocery store. Same dark hair, thick glasses frames, and just creepy guy staring at me, watching me as I shopped. I texted my ex about it, and as an upswing of things, my ex and I got back together in a casual sort of way, and he stayed the night a few times, a month off and on. One night, when I was alone though, I just kept getting this weird feeling and smelling smoke. I lived in an apartment complex that were 3 separate apartments that shared walls, but no plumbing or air ducts. I don't smoke, and I'm very sensitive to the smell thanks to asthma. The apartment had a wall unit AC, so I turned it off since I was apparently pulling air in from a neighbor's guest who must have been chain smoking, I thought. I had an ASL video due the next morning, so I was up all night practicing and recording the video, signing the same story over and over again until it was almost a dance rather than a narration. A couple of times I had to restart the video because my cat was going nuts. Finally, around 7 a.m., I had the video finished and sent in and was ready for bed. So I double-checked all the doors and the windows were locked, set an alarm, and went to sleep. I woke up, got ready for school, was running late a little bit and had to hurry out the door. But I noticed something weird, but didn't have time to stop and register it. Classes went smoothly. I got an A on my ASL video, and I stopped for groceries on my way home from class. As I got home, I saw what had been bugging me. Each apartment had a small garden on each side of the porch. Mine was nothing but gravel and pavers the previous tenant had put in, but it was tidy, except for a pile of cigarette butts that looked like someone had dumped their car ashtray in my garden. There was no other trash, just that pile, right in front of my bedroom window. I don't think anything about it first, and I just get a broom and a dustpan and sweep it up. As I'm doing it, my neighbor, an old man, comes out and asks if my boyfriend ever got a hold of me. I ask him what he means. He tells me there was a young man waiting for me on my front porch, off and on for a few hours last night. That he'd seen the guy around before and thought he was a boyfriend. I asked what he looked like. Dark hair, thick glasses, chain smoking. I text the on again, off again ex. Cops take statements and I give them the screenshots. I moved out of state a few weeks later for unrelated reasons, but have legally changed my name since with closed records. I don't give guys my number anymore. Ladies and my fellow queer family, use a texting app until you get to know someone, because for like $5, creeps can get everything from your number. This next one was posted by Picture This Sicily. I came over from Serbia at age 13 with my mother. My older brother, who was 15 years older than me, had lived in America for a few years, and he sent for us. My mom wouldn't be staying, although at the time I wasn't aware of that. Anyway, we landed in New York City, and the plan was my brother would come and get us. However, my niece decided to come early, and my brother's wife went into labor shortly before we landed. My brother couldn't leave his wife, so he asked a coworker of his, they drove cabs, to pick us up in New York City and drive us to New Jersey, where him and my sister-in-law lived. When we got to New York City, we waited in customs for what seemed like forever. We looked for my brother, but didn't see him. This was in the early 90s, and cell phones weren't as commonplace, and even if they were, my mom and I didn't have one. We panicked a bit, not seeing my brother or my sister-in-law. Suddenly, we heard our names being called and saw a tall man. He introduced himself in perfect Serbian and explained he was a good friend of my brother's, then told us about the baby. He said he'd been driving us the 2 hours from airport to my brother's home. My mom relaxed, and they happily began to converse about the baby and my brother in America. I, however, just felt off. This guy gave me bad vibes, and regardless of my brother's friendship with him, I felt distrustful of him. We drove for a good hour and a half when he announced he was going to take us for breakfast. We hadn't eaten in over 15 hours, so we were starving by then. We pulled up to a house, and my mom and I were confused. He insisted cheerfully that his wife was cooking us breakfast, and after we'd drive the rest of the way to the hospital to see my family. My mom shushed me when I whispered something didn't feel right, and told me that we needed to be grateful for the hospitality. We were led up into the house. It was dark and dank and dirty. Suddenly, I think my mom finally got a bit nervous and started insisting he take us to my brother. The guy grabbed my mom by the wrist. He told her that he needed a wife to take care of him in his house, and when he heard my brother tell the others at work she'd be coming to stay, he knew he'd found a wife. I, at the time, was a scrawny little scamp of a kid, and I tried pushing him off of my mom, but he hit me so hard I saw stars. At this point, we are terrified. Neither of us spoke English. We only knew my brother's home number, and he was at the hospital. Only in Serbia, you don't dial 911. So even if I could, I didn't know that's how I'd call the police. Anyway, he tells my mom she's to clean and cook for him, and he takes me to the basement where I was locked in, what I now know is called the laundry room. I banged and cried and yelled, but it was so far down the basement everything was muffled. For a week, we were kept in his home. He'd lock us up in the basement after my mom cooked him breakfast, and he'd let us out when he'd come home at 4. If we had to use the restroom, there was a bathroom, but that was it. It was a bathroom and a laundry room. It was freezing cold down there, and even us huddling together under a blanket did nothing. One morning, I discovered a small window by climbing on some boxes. I managed to open it, and my mother insisted I squeeze through it. I didn't want to leave her, and besides, How would I get help? I couldn't read or speak the language. However, I didn't want to live this way for the rest of my life, so I did as she asked. I ran once I got out, and I'm sure I was out of sight. A scrawny boy with no shoes, only wearing shorts and a t-shirt in the middle of November? However, that is what saved us, as several concerned neighbors tried to get me to come up to them, and I wouldn't. I was terrified. I kept trying to get them to follow me. The police was called, and a very nice policeman tried to get me to go into his car. Then I saw the man who'd taken us drive up in his taxi. He saw the cops and took off. That's when I made a run for his house to get my mom. Needless to say, the cop and his partner ran after me, and my mother was rescued. It took another 4 hours for them to find someone who spoke our language, for us to tell them what happened. A warrant was issued for the man. My brother was contacted. His friend had told him we never showed, and my brother had been frantically calling back home in Serbia to find us. He drove up to get us, to give the cops information on his supposed friend so they could find him. They never did find him. Back then, before 9/11, it was easy for someone to disappear. However, it made me distrustful for a long time of people and their intentions. My mom grew homesick, and she ended up going back to Serbia. I stayed and finished school. I ended up becoming a cop in the military thanks to the nice officer that helped me all those years ago. I think of that guy who kept us prisoner every now and then, and honestly, I wouldn't mind meeting him now. I just don't think he'd want to meet me. You've been listening to The Best of Rslash. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you wish to see more videos like this, please subscribe.